Picture a single solar panel propped against a balcony railing plugged into an ordinary wall socket with a standard 3-pin plug. No electrician, no rewiring, no hole cut in the roof. Just a panel, a short cable, and a socket that's been sitting in your kitchen wall since the house was built. In Germany, more than 1 million households have been running exactly this kind of setup for years, quietly shaving watts off their daily electricity use every time the sun comes out. And in Britain, until this week, doing the same thing sat in a strange kind of limbo. Not officially banned outright, but not sanctioned either. Technically possible. Officially unsanctioned. The kind of gray area where a product exists, gets sold, gets used, and yet never quite has the law's blessing. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that gap existed, what changed, what a plug-in solar system can and can't actually do for your bills, and whether it's something worth setting up on your own balcony, patio, or garden wall. Start with the problem most people are actually facing. Electricity prices have not been kind for years now, and the standard advice, just get solar panels, assumes something a lot of households don't have: a roof they own, a roof that faces the right way, or a roof at all. If you rent, the roof belongs to your landlord. If you're a leaseholder in a block of flats, the roof is often communal property you have no legal claim to. If your roof is shaded, north-facing, or structurally unsuitable, a full installation may not even be possible. That's a huge slice of the population. Renters, flat owners, people in older terraced housing, for whom just put panels on your roof was never realistic advice in the first place. The mainstream solution has always been the full rooftop system, a professional installer, a scaffold, an array wired directly into your consumer unit, a formal grid connection notification, and a bill that can run into the thousands. It works, and for homeowners with a suitable roof, it's still the most powerful option available, because a full array captures far more sunlight than anything you could plug into a socket. But that cost and that commitment are exactly why so many people simply opt out. You either pay a large sum up front for a system built into your house, or you keep paying full price for grid electricity indefinitely. For millions of households, there's never been a middle option until small portable solar kits started showing up. The forgotten principle behind plug-in solar isn't really forgotten, so much as it's been sitting outside the door marked acceptable for a long time. The physics is almost embarrassingly simple. A photovoltaic panel generates direct current when sunlight hits it. A small inverter converts that direct current into the alternating current your home actually uses. And that converted power gets fed into your house through, of all things, a plug. The same kind you'd use for a toaster. Whatever appliances are running in your home at that moment, a fridge, a router, a laptop charger, draw first from whatever the panel is generating and only pull the rest from the grid. You're not storing power, you're not selling power back, you're simply reducing how much you buy in real time while the sun is out. What made this controversial wasn't the panel. It was the plug. Household wiring regulations were written around fixed installations, a qualified electrician running cable into a consumer unit, testing it, certifying it. A plug going into a standard socket was designed to pull power, not push it back out, and the entire safety architecture around a normal socket assumes current only flows one way. That mismatch, a generating device using a receiving device as connector, is the actual reason plug-in solar sat in that gray zone for so long. It wasn't that the idea was inherently dangerous, it was that nobody had built a specification for it, so nothing plugging into a wall could be said to properly comply with the wiring rules as written. There is a genuine historical through line here, even if it's a short one. Germany moved early, formally allowing small plug-in balcony solar units and building a specification around them years before Britain did. Belgium followed with similar rules. In both cases, the reasoning was the same. Cap the output low enough that it can't meaningfully overload household wiring, require basic certification, and let ordinary people generate a modest amount of their own power without hiring a contractor. It's a small, deliberately limited version of self-generation, closer in spirit to running an extension cord to a garden shed than to installing a rooftop array, but treated with real caution because it touches the grid. Now for realistic performance, because this is where a lot of marketing quietly oversells. A plug-in panel or two is not going to run your oven, your immersion heater, or your electric shower. Those loads are simply too large. What it's genuinely good at is offsetting the steady background hum of electricity your home uses all day, regardless of what you're doing. The fridge compressor, cycling on and off, the router, standby devices, a laptop charging. On a sunny day, a small system can meaningfully cut into that baseline draw. On a cloudy day, or through a British winter, output drops sharply, because these systems are still solar panels obeying the same physics as a full rooftop array. They need direct light, and a shaded or poorly angled balcony will produce very little. This is a supplement to your electricity bill, not a replacement for it, and anyone telling you otherwise is skipping the honest part of the explanation. Now the objections, because they're worth taking seriously rather than waving away. The core electrical concern is genuine. Feeding generated current into a household circuit through an ordinary socket, rather than a fixed connection, raises real questions about overload protection, about what happens if too much is drawn through one circuit, and about whether the plugs and socket themselves are rated for that kind of use. That's precisely why regulators didn't simply shrug and allow anything with a plug on it. They required a defined power cap, a proper certification specification for the complete kit, and a formal notification to your electricity network operator so the wider grid knows a small generator has joined it. There's also a structural and practical layer if you're mounting anything on a balcony. Weight, wind loading, whether the balustrade can safely take a clamped panel, and whether your lease or tenancy agreement even permits fixtures on shared or rented structures. None of these concerns are exotic or invented. They're the same categories of question any electrical or structural addition to a home would raise, just scaled down to a much smaller and lower risk device. In practice, a simple setup looks almost anticlimactic. 1 or 2 solar panels, sized to sit flat against a railing or lean against a wall, connected to a small compact inverter that handles the conversion from DC to AC, and a short cable ending in a standard plug that goes into a nearby outdoor or indoor socket. Freestanding or removable mounts tend to be the easier route for renters, since they avoid drilling into shared structures and can come down at the end of a tenancy without leaving a mark. Positioning matters more than people expect. A panel facing south with a few hours of unobstructed sun will vastly outperform the same panel tucked into shade or facing north, because you're still bound by the same rules of orientation and daylight that govern any solar installation, just at a smaller scale. Before you consider anything like this yourself, treat it the way you'd treat any change to your home's electrical system, because that's exactly what it is. Confirm the current legal and technical requirements in your area, since rules around plug-in generation have been actively evolving. And the specifics, power limits, certification marks, notification procedures, are the kind of detail that changes with new regulation rather than staying fixed. Only use a kit that's certified as a complete package to the applicable specification, not just an inverter with a safety mark bolted onto an uncertified panel. Notify your network operator where required, so the grid knows about the small amount of generation joining it. If you rent or share ownership of a building, get written permission before fixing anything to a balcony, railing, or shared wall, since damage, insurance, and removal at the end of a tenancy are real practical issues, not just formalities. And if you're ever unsure whether a setup complies with current wiring and safety standards, that's a question for a qualified electrician, not a guess. Picture the version that actually works well. A small panel angled against a south-facing balcony rail, cable running neatly to a socket by the sliding door, doing nothing dramatic, just quietly shaving a bit off the fridge's draw and the router's overnight hum every time the sun is up. Day after day, without anyone in the house thinking about it. It's not a revolution. It's a small, honest reduction built from a genuinely simple idea that spent years stuck behind a wiring standard that had never been written with it in mind. The knowledge here was never really hidden. It was just waiting for the paperwork to catch up, and for people willing to understand how their own walls, sockets, and sunlight actually work together.